What would you do if you saw a dog being dragged alive for miles? Like a garbage bag tied to a car. That's how today's case started. A yellow lab, flesh exposed. A coward behind the wheel. And a truck driver who decided he wasn't going to be an accomplice to this crime. My name is Detective Miller, and what you're about to see is the story of Duke, the dog who almost died on the asphalt, and Jake, the trucker who had the guts to change the course of that night. Before I continue, do me a favor. Drop in the comments what city you're watching from, and stick around till the end, because what happens to the attacker and to Warrior in the finale will mess with your faith in justice and in people. It was the dead of night on shift. Cold coffee, stack of incident reports, silence of a small-town precinct. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. Short message. Detective, name's Jake. I'm a truck driver. Film this, man, because this guy can't get away with it. Taking the dog to a 24-hour clinic. If he survives, I'll give my statement. I hit play expecting another traffic dispute. 3 seconds in, my throat locked up. A black car, a Ford Mustang hauling ass, a rope tied to the bumper, and at the end of that rope, a bloodied lab being dragged down Interstate 95. And in the background, a man screaming off camera, "You piece of trash. Let that dog go." When the video ended, I wasn't just a detective looking at evidence anymore. I was a human being disgusted by what another human being had just done. I already knew this wasn't just animal abuse, this was torture, and someone was going to jail. More voice messages came through. It was Jake, out of breath, crying and talking at the same time. "Doc, I blocked his car with my truck. Picked up the dog. Heading to a 24-hour clinic now. If this little guy makes it, I'll give whatever statement you need." Later, I heard the whole story in my office, eye to eye. But right there, in those voice messages, I understood who Jake was. Trucker with 20 years on the road. Bad back, destroyed marriage, kids far away. A guy used to watching life pass by through the windshield. That night, he could have done what most would. Look. Cuss from a distance, complain in the WhatsApp group, and keep driving. But he didn't. He floored it, blocked the Mustang, confronted the attacker, took off his own shirt to wrap the dog, and put the animal in his Peterbilt cabin like he was carrying his own kid. This is the first thing I want you to remember from this story. An ordinary man did something very few people have the courage to do. There are things that not even forensics can explain. The guy who told me this part was Jake himself, eyes full of tears at the station. He was exhausted. A few more hours, and he'd be in Miami with his load of medication. Same routine as always. The asphalt was wet, reflecting the headlights when he heard the sound. In the rear view, his blood ran cold, a yellow lab covered in blood being dragged by a rope. Gasping, fighting to live, the animal's back legs desperately tried to find support, but kept slipping on the soaked pavement. The dog lifted its head, trying to breathe, eyes glazed with terror and pain. The lab's fur was raw on the back and paws. Blood mixed with rainwater, leaving a red trail on the asphalt. The animal gasped with its mouth open, purple tongue hanging out. With every meter dragged, more pieces of skin tore off. And the Mustang driver? Acting like nothing was happening. Music blasting, window down, even smoking. A guy around 40, bald, with an expression of total indifference, like dragging a live dog was the most normal thing in the world. Then came the moment that changed everything. The animal looked back, straight at Jake's truck, like it was asking for help. In those brown eyes, Jake saw something that hit him like a punch to the gut. Pure pleading. The dog was conscious, knew it was dying and was begging for someone to save it. Jake honked desperately, waved through the window, yelled. The driver looked at him annoyed, like someone bothered by a mosquito, and hit the gas even harder. The lab whimpered, a sharp, desperate sound that pierced Jake's soul like a blade. "No, no, no, you're not killing this dog right in front of me, you bastard." Jake knew exactly what to do. He floored the accelerator, past the Mustang, and with a precise maneuver, threw his Peterbilt in front of the car, forcing the driver to slam the brakes. The Mustang skidded on the wet road, spun 180 degrees and stopped on the shoulder. The driver jumped out screaming, "You crazy or what, man?" Jake leaped from the cabin before the truck even stopped completely. The animal was lying on its side on the asphalt, breathing raggedly, shaking. The back legs were raw flesh, blood pooling around its body. But when Jake approached and knelt down, the dog did the impossible. It lifted its head and tried to wag its tail. "Easy, boy, easy," Jake whispered, voice cracking, slowly extending his hand. The lab, even destroyed by pain, touched its bloodied snout to Jake's palm. A gesture of absolute trust that made the trucker feel something he hadn't felt in years. It could have bitten. It could have growled. It could have just passed out, but it chose to trust. That's when the dog got its name. It didn't even know if it would make it to the clinic alive. But Jake already called him Duke. After pushing the attacker away, Jake took off his own shirt, wrapped the dog, and carried him to the Peterbilt cabin. On the GPS 24-hour vet clinic 29 miles away. 29 miles between life and death. He called the clinic, Doc. "I'm coming in hot with a dog that was dragged on the highway, losing a lot of blood. Get everything ready. I'll sell my truck if I have to, but save him." Meanwhile, on the road, he ignored speed limits, tickets, his job, everything. Beside him, Duke drifted between consciousness and passing out. Jake talked to him the whole time like he was human. "Don't sleep, man. Stay with me. I'm not abandoning you today." Arriving at the clinic, the team rushed. Long surgery all night. The report from Dr. Anderson that I received later said multiple deep lacerations, fractured back legs, hypovolemic shock, real risk of death. Jake lost his job because of that night. The boss demanded delivery of the load, threatened to fire him. He chose to stay with the dog. When he told me this, he asked, "You think I was crazy, detective?" I answered, "Crazy is dragging a living being on the asphalt over 2 chickens. What you did has another name, courage." And this is where I really enter the story. Hours later, the attacker showed up at the station, full of attitude. Said he'd been assaulted by a trucker and they stole his dog. Wanted to press charges against Jake. I listened. Let him talk. He told a nice little version, that the dog had escaped, that he didn't see it, that the trucker was some lunatic looking for attention. When he finished, I asked, "You sure you want to file this report?" "Yeah, I want that trucker arrested." That's when I turned my phone around and hit play on Jake's video. Just inches from his face. The expression changed instantly. From outraged citizen to criminal who knows he's been caught. What the video showed wasn't negligence. It was intentional. Mustang at high speed, rope tied tight, dog already raw, indicating this had been going on for a while. The car's owner, cigarette in hand, listening to music, like he was heading to the beach. And more, in the video, he said he was drunk. Another violation, driving under the influence. And the dog, looking back at Jake's headlights, begging for someone. Then came his argument. "Yeah, worthless dog deserved to die. Killed 2 of my mother-in-law's chickens." That was his argument. 2 chickens. Because of 2 chickens, he tied a live dog to his car and went dragging it down the highway. When I heard that in the statement, I'll admit, it was hard to stay calm as a detective, and not just as a human being. I requested forensics at the location, collected the clinic report, formalized Jake's statement, pulled the highway footage. Justice doesn't erase Duke's pain, but it sends a message. This ain't gonna go unpunished anymore. In that moment, that man stopped being a complainant. He became what he always was, perpetrator of animal cruelty with aggravating circumstances, resulting in severe injury and risk of death. While I was moving the case forward here, on the other side of town, 2 patients were fighting for their lives. One at the vet clinic, Duke, long surgery, liters of blood, reconstructed bones, 24 hours of uncertainty. The other sitting in a hard chair watching the monitors beep. Jake, no sleep, no food, thinking about nothing else. On one side, the dog trying to survive physically. On the other, a man trying to relearn how to feel. Jake leaned against the hallway wall and, for the first time in years, cried. Cried for the cruelty he'd witnessed, for Duke's courage, for his own life wasted in loneliness and bitterness. Tears of anger, sadness, but also of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. He tried to remember the last time he felt part of a family. With Sarah and the kids, maybe. But even then, there was always a distance. Then came the bill. "Doc, how much is all this gonna cost?" "Look, it's gonna be expensive. Emergency surgery, meds, hospitalization. About $5,000. $5,000, equivalent to 2 hauls." Jake had $3,000 in savings. He'd have to go into debt. "That's fine. Do whatever it takes." "You sure?" "That's a lot of money." Jake looked at Duke, small and fragile in the bed. He thought about the pleading look the animal had given him on the asphalt, the absolute trust when he touched his snout to Jake's hand. "Doc, this dog trusts me. How can I let him down?" For the first time in a long time, Jake prayed. Didn't really know how. It had been forever since he'd talked to God, but he asked for that brave dog to have one more chance. A chance to live, a chance to be happy, a chance to teach Jake how to feel again. A day after surgery, the clinic's phone rang here at the station. It was Dr. Anderson, the vet. "Detective, he woke up." I went there off the clock. Not so much as an authority, but as someone who also needed to see that ending. Duke was lying in a heated bed covered in bandages. Limping, breathing slowly, but he was there, alive. When Jake walked into the room, no words needed. The dog lifted his head, searched for the sound of footsteps, found the trucker, and in his crooked way, tried to wag his tail. Duke didn't know law, didn't know penal code, didn't know what a police station was. He only knew one thing: that man had stopped the world for him. And that's all a dog needs to give you his whole heart. Dr. Anderson explained. Surgery was successful. We managed to reconstruct most of the damage to the legs. He'll have some scars, maybe a slight limp, but nothing that'll stop him from living a normal life. If all goes well, he's out in a week. But he'll need care, medication, bandages, physical therapy. The attacker was indicted, facing charges. Lost his job, lost his reputation, lost his good citizen mask. And Jake sold his car, paid the clinic, rented a simple little house with a yard. Dog bed, bowls, good kibble, toys, collar. Everything bought on installments. "All right, Duke, welcome home." The place was simple, but the yard had grass and an oak tree for shade. Duke sniffed every corner, then ran around limping, happy as could be, doing circles in the yard. At night, the dog stuck to him, wouldn't get 2 feet away. Fear of being abandoned again. Trauma takes time to heal. Easy, boy. "I'm not going anywhere." With the viral video came people offering donations, help, partnerships, even a book deal. Even the company called him back, because the video had already passed 1 million views. They wanted to capitalize on the publicity, employ an animal hero. But Jake had found something bigger than a job. Detective, if this video saved Duke, it can save others too. I want to help more dogs, even if it's one at a time. He started visiting shelters, meeting with NGOs, learning animal protection laws. At the first shelter he visited, he was shocked. Dozens of injured, abandoned dogs all asking for a chance. "It's like this every day," said Miss Betty, who ran the place. "Not enough hands, not enough money, not enough anything." Jake looked at Duke, now helping the more scared dogs approach, like he was saying, "It's okay. Miss Betty, I want to help for real. Not just with donations. I want to work here." "We don't have a salary," she warned. "I'm not looking for a salary. I'm looking for purpose." She smiled. "Then come tomorrow. There's always room for one more who loves animals." Over time, Jake became a go-to guy at the shelter. Had a special way with traumatized dogs. Knew how to wait for them. Knew how to recognize pain in their eyes, and after all, he'd learned that looking in his own mirror. Duke became a kind of canine therapist. He'd go into the kennels, lie down next to the most frightened ones, offer silence and company, and gradually they'd trust. One day, a production company called interested in turning the story into a TV show. A weekly segment about rescue, abuse, adoption, education, and of course featuring Duke. Guardians on 4 paws, and Jake suggested. Months later, the pilot aired. Ratings exploded. Stories of suffering, yes, but mainly of second chances. One phone call in particular changed something else in Jake's life. "Dad?" The voice on the other end was timid. "It's Emma." His youngest daughter, 16 years old. They barely talked since the separation. "Em? Everything okay?" "I saw you on TV. With Duke. Cried through the whole episode." Jake felt the lump in his throat. "Cried about what, sweetheart?" Pride. Silence. I want to meet Duke. Can I come this weekend? Yeah, of course you can. This is your home. On Saturday, Emma and Sarah went to the shelter. Duke went straight to the girl like he knew who she was. Within minutes, the two were rolling on the floor laughing. Sarah watched it all, moved. You changed, Jake, and she said. You're more alive. I think I finally figured out what I always wanted to be, he replied, looking at his daughter and the dog. Someone who makes a difference to someone. Emma asked to volunteer during summer break. Sarah made a generous donation to the shelter. That day, Jake understood that the dog he rescued in the dead of night had stitched together threads he thought were lost forever. Family, love, belonging. Sometime later, the phone rang again. It was Dr. Anderson. Jake, we got a tough case here. German Shepherd puppy beaten by his owner. He's terrified, won't let anyone near him. On my way. At the clinic, the puppy was huddled at the back of the cage, shaking and growling. Jake crouched down slowly. Easy, boy. Nobody's going to hurt you here. Duke lay down in front of the cage, silent. Just stayed there, present. Little by little, the puppy approached, drawn by Duke's calm. He touched his snout to the bars, sniffing. It's incredible, Dr. Anderson whispered. They understand each other. Pain recognizes pain, Jake answered. But it also recognizes healing. Hours later, the puppy was in Jake's lap, eyes fixed on Duke. Welcome to the family, Ranger, he said, naming the new member. Now let me talk to you as a detective. And as a person. No law in the world works if everyone pretends they didn't see. If Jake had just complained and kept driving, I never would have gotten that video. Duke would have died on the road. And the attacker would be out there, laughing, ready to do it again. It was the choice of one exhausted trucker in the middle of the night that changed the ending of this story. So I want to ask you, looking you in the eyes, if you saw a Duke in front of you, would you drive by? Or would you be the next Jake? Drop in the comments what you'd do, and if this story moved you, help it go further. Like the video. Faustin by Sundasti. Subscribe to the channel. Kaisi Katu Swaiga Sakansilwa. Share with someone who loves animals. On the screen next to this, there's another real case of cruelty that became a new beginning. I'll see you there.